get that as well. Okay, now in the last 15 to 20 minutes, let me at least pick up on where I was last time. So at the end of part 3 of Will Israel Attack Iran? And what I'm doing...
No, basically, because this article is published in News with Views. News with Views.
Right.
Go ahead.
All right, I have a series, a 4-part series, and we're now at the end of part 3 on Will Israel Attack Iran? But as usual, I don't just deal with, okay, here's Israel and here's Iran, and they attack or they don't attack. I try and place it in the larger context. And so what I ended with at the end of part 3 is how a W.J. Gent, G-H-E-N-T, has a book and an article, and I was quoting from his article called The Next Step, A Benevolent Feudalism. And that's published in a newspaper called The Independent, dated April 3, 1902. Now, he also has a companion book, it's larger. But this is very important. It's not just, oh, look, Cuddy found a quote by some guy. This guy was the editor of the American Fabian magazine. Fabian meaning Fabian socialism, and that's what the power elite wants. Through a gradual process, Fabian, that's the slow process, they want a world socialist government. So that's why this fellow is particularly important. And that's not just my opinion, but Jack London wrote a book in 1907 called The Iron Heel, The Iron Heel, H-E-E-L. And in there he said, Gent's model, this guy, Gent's model, is what the oligarchs and plutocrats are going to use in the future to achieve their ultimate objective of, world control. So Jack London is agreeing, he's agreeing, and this is like 100 years ago, it's over 100 years ago, where they're mapping out this plan. And so where we were last time was describing what happens not only to the nations that are involved in this end-time sort of scenario, but individuals. And I was quoting from Gent's article in The Independent, which is called The Next Step of Benevolent Feudalism. And I'm not going to go back over the whole quote, but I'm just going to pick up in the middle where he's talking about this society to come, this feudalistic socialism to come. And what happens to individuals is what he's describing now. And I'm picking up in the middle of the quote where he says, the individual security of place and livelihood of its members, the society, will then depend on the harmony of their utterances, what they say, and acts, A-C-T-S, with the wishes of the great nobles. See, in a feudalistic society, you got these serfs and peasants, nobles and knaves at the bottom, and at the top you got your nobles, your dukes and your earls and marquises and all that sort of stuff. And so Gent continues, and he says, and so long as they rightly fulfill their functions, that's the serfs, as long as you obey the nobles, the elites, he says, the people, the masses, their recompense will be generous. See, so if you do what David Rockefeller wants you to do, you'll be okie dokie. You'll be okay. And then again continues. He says, they will at once be the assuagers of popular suspicion. See, when this stuff happens, people start getting suspicious. I wonder what's going on. Maybe Rockefeller, there's some sort of conspiracy. So he says there are people in place who are at once the assuagers of popular suspicion and discontent, and the providers of moral and intellectual anodynes for the barren. So you have people assuaging the public, say, calm down, don't be suspicious, everything's okay, don't be discontented. There are people in place to handle that. Now again continues, he says, a host of economists, preachers, and editors will be ready to show indisputably that the that the evolution taking place is for the best interest of all. See, so there's economists and preachers and editors saying, it's okay, this is all going to be for the best. So again continues, he says, the nobles of this future to come, the nobles will have attained to complete power, and the motive and operation of government will have become simply the registering and administering of their, not ours, their collective will. Armed force will, of course, he says, be employed to overawe the discontented and to quiet unnecessary turbulence. unlike the armed forces of the old feudalism, 1,000 years ago, the knights and the, jousting and the crossbows and all that stuff. He says, unlike the armed forces of the old feudalism, the nominal control will be that of the state. The nominal control, but it's actually these nobles, the paralytic. The nominal control will be that of the state. He continues, when the new order is in full swing, so comprehensive and so exact will be the social and political control that it will be exercised in a constantly widening scope. They have this control, and then he widen it and widen it and widen it. And so he continues. He says, peace and stability will be the main desideratum. That's what they'll tell us. All these editors and preachers, we need peace, we need stability, just go along, it'll be okay. All right, so he again continues. He says, a happy blending of generosity and firmness will characterize all dealings with open discontent. In other words, they don't just come and beat you over the head. We'll be generous. Just go along with us. Of course, you do need to go along, or there might be conflict, like that. So it's a generous but firm. All right, so he goes on. He says, a happy blending of generosity and firmness will characterize all dealings with open discontent. To the prevention of discontent, the teachings of the schools and colleges, the sermons, the editorials, and even the plays, P-L-A-Y-S, plays at the theaters will be skillfully and persuasively molded. So here you see the vast control. It's not just, one or two preachers or an editor or two here and there. I mean, this thing's massive. It'll be in the schools, it'll be in the colleges, there'll be sermons, editorials, and even plays. You go to a theater, and there's a play. A play's going on that has been skillfully and persuasively molded to fit this scenario. So the public is, constantly, it's okay, it's for your own good, it's beneficial. And that's what David Rockefeller actually is saying in his book Memoirs. After David Rockefeller, if you get that, page 405 that Dr. Stan mentioned, if you get that book and you're reading and it says he's part of the secret cabal and conspiring and so forth and so on, right under that, in the mid of the page, there's a sort of subtitle, and it's called Political Paranoia. Political Paranoia. And when you read what's under that, the bottom half of that page 405, what David Rockefeller says is that, yeah, we do exist. Yeah, there is a secret cabal. Yeah, we are conspiring against the best interests. But David Rockefeller says, all you people out there, all those people out there reading this book across the land who think that this is bad, well, you're mistaken. That's political paranoia. He says, yeah, we exist, but we're good. We're good for you. This is for your own good. It's for the best interest of the country and for you.
Well, not only that, but he talks about, he says, we've raised the living standards of other countries throughout the world.
Yep.
How would you have done it? Look what a great job we've done in other countries. And of course, this is written in 2002, and they had raised the living standards in India, and they had raised the living standards in China, and people were better off in those countries, of course. And suddenly we were on the verge of beginning lowering the living standards in America, certainly, and getting to the point where we are today with a real unemployment rate, according to John Williams. If you take the unemployed, the underemployed, those giving up for work, or those going on disability, now over 12% of our population's on disability of one sort or another. I think 11 million people, something like that. But basically he says, but look how much better off people are, certainly in 2002. But ladies and gentlemen, what's coming ahead is going to be a nightmare. Go right ahead, Dr. Cuddy.
Yeah, it will be. And as Gent was writing this about the sermons by preachers, the editorials, and so forth and so on, there's another book that Radio Liberty has, and it's called the 200-year education chronology. It's called Chronology of Education with Quotable Quotes. And I wrote that. It's only about 135 pages, but it has a 3,000-item index. And one of the things that I included in there is, I believe it's from the